Is Ramachandra on yet?
No, he's not on. Okay, and I will share the screen. So
Great.
this letter is
You're a genius.
from July 7th, 1953. Dear Mr. Bailey, I am in due receipt of your kind letter NRAR 2295.
What's the date?
It's in 1953.
1953.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
So, well, it's a long time ago, means before he came to America.
Dear Mr. Bailey, I am in due receipt of your kind letter of the 7th instant, and I thank you very much for the same. You have written to say that the United States and the American Reporter are keenly interested in bringing together the East and the West closer together on a philosophical and religious basis, as well as economic, agricultural, and political. Certainly, this attempt is not only laudable, but also a stepping stone towards the ultimate self-realization. When we speak of philosophy, it is something higher than the attempt of combining the East and West. The whole cosmic situation is a complete whole, and unless an attempt is genuine is made for harmonizing the whole system, any partial attempt on our part, however large in magnitude, will fail to approach the ultimate goal. Sages of India realized it by a perfect deductive process which descends on human consciousness by a transcendental chain of unbroken bona fide disciplic succession, that material civilization is a temporary gigantic demonstration of a rabid process of sense gratification. The sense organs are given uncertain liberty to gratify their senses, and the whole show of science education, trade, industry, economy, and politics are but different spheres of activities in the realm of gratifying the senses. Above the senses or sense organs is a diametric force which is subtler than the sense organs and is known as the mind, but acts in terms of thinking, feeling, and willing. The empiric philosophers speculating on an imperfect process of induction generally indulge intellectual feats without knowing that behind the mind there is human intelligence which is able to analyze the process of psychology, but is unable to find out the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence. So the spirit that conducts even intelligence is the primeval root of everything, and there is an adjustment of spirit and matter as much as there is an adjustment of smoke and fire. The smoke is a conditional state of fire, and therefore smoke is nothing but fire, and yet we cannot compare smoke and fire on the same platform. Smoke emanates from fire, but it is disturbing condition of fire. We need fire and not the smoke. The present smoky material or sensual civilization has to be kindled into the fire of reality or spiritual civilization. It is neither difficult nor impossible. It is just a simple process of fanning the fire in order to get rid of the disturbing smoke. The fanning process is eternally the same, and one and the empiric speculators have nothing to invent new in it. It must be actually a fanning in spiritualized process and nothing else. The great philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita is the authoritative book to guide us in this respect. We have nothing to drag in it by foreign empiric interpretation. Let it be understood as it is, because it is just like the sun. The sun does not require to be helped by the light. So there is no need of understanding Bhagavad-Gita by indirect interpretation. Kurukshetra is Kurukshetra. Dharmakshetra is Dharmakshetra. The Pandavas are Pandavas, or the sons of Pandu, and nobody else. The Pandavas and Kauravas not actually at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita was told by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. I wish that your people may try to understand Bhagavad-Gita in terms of its direct meaning. Let it not be unnecessarily misunderstood by the empiric speculative method.
Wow.
For making others of the vanity of so-called learning without any living experience. Such academic erudity has nothing to do with the living reality. I shall try to present an analytical study of Bhagavad-Gita through the pages of your American reporter in order to help the American people to understand Bhagavad-Gita as it is. If your people can grasp the direct meaning of Bhagavad-Gita, it will be possible for us all to know the basic principle of cosmic harmony. When that is done, we shall know that all maladjustment of our existence is not only peaceful, but an eternal bliss distinguished from the ephemeral temporary sensual satisfaction. We shall then only know that here is a world where there is no struggle for existence, and every living entity, never mind what it is, either a man or a beast, is fit to exist. The enclosed piece of article and the blank is the first of a series of articles on the above subject to understand Bhagavad Gita by its direct meaning.
Is that it?
The next page is missing, so that's all we got.
Okay. But that is absolutely astonishing. You realize it's far more condensed than anything he preached in America. In America, the same message was preached, what you could call almost baby talk, so that we could understand it. But this is so condensed, it's good. My recommendation is we go back over sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and discuss each line of reasoning that he presents. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to expand the window. I'm having a problem here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi.
I'm having a problem here.
Scrolling back to the beginning.
Well, the box for Zoom is really small and I can't get it to be full sized again.
Really, I have it full sized on my screen.
Oh, okay, here, I got it. I got
You
it.
got it. Very good for you.
Okay, now. Okay, so you want me to go line by line?
Line by line or thought by thought, subject by subject, however you like to do it.
Okay, hold on one second.
Sure.
Okay. So Prabhupada says, you have written to say that the United States and the American Reporter are keenly interested in bringing together the East and West closer together on a philosophical and religious basis, as well as economic, agricultural, and political. Certainly, this attempt is not only laudable, but also a stepping stone toward the ultimate self-realization.
Okay, can you start explaining that? By the way, you should explain where this is from. It's from the League of the... Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I went dead for a second.
I can speak? Okay, I've got it. Page.
Okay, now.
So he's writing from the League of Devotees.
This is a letter to Mr. Bailey, Allahabad, 7 July 1953. Published in the AB Patrika on 7/7/53 at Allahabad under the heading Hindu Missionaries.
Yeah, but who's sending it?
I don't know.
To go to the top.
Hold on one second. Hey, what'd you say?
What? Can you?
What did you say to me?
Well, what I was saying to you is, why not read that it's from the League of Devotees? That's all. Yeah, it's from the League of Devotees, Srila Prabhupada's pre-ISKCON organization. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go. So what year is this?
53.
Huh?
53.
Okay, so in 1953, Prabhupada is responding to someone who are interested in bringing the East and West closer together on a philosophical and religious basis, as well as economic, agricultural, and political. Surely this attempt is not only laudable, but is a stepping stone towards the ultimate self-realization. So Srila Prabhupada sees the kinetic and physical connection between East and West as inevitably leading to the beginning of the distribution of Lord Chaitanya's mission, although he doesn't mention that specifically. The ultimate self-realization he keeps to himself, but that is the Hare Krishna mantra, chanting Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's like he's agreeing with him while not agreeing with him.
Or is he not agreeing with him?
Well, it's not that he doesn't agree with him, it's that he just, like, it's an incomplete. He says it's not only laudable, but also a stepping stone toward the ultimate self-realization.
That's very, very positive, considering the time and place, no?
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to a Westerner. So the Westerner is taking that up, Prabhupada wrote it so that the Westerner would take it up in a positive sort of way, you know?
Right.
Okay. Then he writes the next paragraph. Can you read the next paragraph?
When we speak of philosophy, it is something higher than the attempt of combining the East and West. The whole cosmic situation is a complete whole, and unless an attempt genuine is made for harmonizing the whole system, any partial attempt on our part, however large in magnitude, will fail to approach the ultimate goal.
Now, this is very vital because people have already come to America before. Vivekananda and who's the other guy?
Ramakrishna?
No, he didn't come. Vivekananda, well, who represented Ramakrishna? Was that Vivekananda?
I don't remember.
Well, who's the yogi that came before? Yeah, we don't know. So that's okay. But people had come before and set up ashrams.
Oh, Osho, Rajneesh.
Rajneesh? No, that's much later. That's after Prabhupada, I think. Anyhow, let's not go there. There were several yogis that came to America. There's one in San Francisco, had a ashram that was built in Victorian times, just like a Victorian house, except it had Vedic arches and whatnot, and that's where they had ceremonies inside. But the ceremonies were largely, they were no doubt informative and gave the people knowledge of the Vedas, but in terms of actual delivery of spiritual life or self-realization, they didn't even make an attempt. It was mostly a place for men and women, particularly women, could sit down comfortably, snuggle into their bodies, and be informed of things which they hoped would take them beyond the limits of Christianity or whatever religion they had. So that went on, but it didn't produce any result. So in this line, is it when we speak of philosophy, it's something higher than the attempt of combining the East and West. You see, they combined the East and West. The whole cosmic situation is a complete whole. So he's saying we must go beyond the combination of East and West to the entirety of what we consider to be reality. The whole system, any partial attempt on our part, however large in magnitude, will fail because it will simply be another idea being put forward. It will not be a way of revealing.
Definitive.
Yeah, exactly. It will not be a definitive description of the soul, no matter where he lives, east or west. Can you read the next one?
Sages of India realized it by a perfect deductive process, which descends on human consciousness by a transcendental chain of unbroken bona fide disciplic succession, that material civilization is a temporary, gigantic demonstration of a rapid process of sense gratification. The sense organs are given uncertain liberty to gratify their desires, and the whole show of science, education, trade, industry, economy, and politics are but different spheres of activities in the realm of gratifying the senses.
Yeah. So here we are saying something which we're saying about people joining ISKCON right now also, that there are different spheres of activity in the realm of gratifying the senses. In other words, they're trying to make Krishna consciousness not a means of departing from planet Earth, going back to home, back to Godhead, but the primary goal is to create comfort zone for doing what? In the realm of gratifying the senses. So this sense gratification process is very difficult to deal with. It's very difficult to transcend. And he's saying that material civilization, not East and West, is a temporary, gigantic demonstration of a rapid process of sense gratification. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying here is that one cannot go back to Godhead. One cannot become God conscious. Certainly one cannot become a yogi or a guru or a sage in spiritual life unless he is able to move outside of the process of sense gratification. And that we find is very difficult, because how many yogis in India are free from sense gratification? In fact, they give sense gratification to their female followers and then give some sort of knowledge in exchange, which is not the same thing as transcendental knowledge, because it is on the back of sense gratification. Krishna consciousness today is being conducted in such a way that the spiritual knowledge is also being carried on the back of sense gratification. There's no plan to give up sense gratification in ISKCON today, because the GBC has turned ISKCON into a religion like the Catholic Church, modeled after the Catholic Church, rather than independent temples with independent elected representatives governing them, that is based on distancing from sense gratification. Okay, go ahead. You were going to say twice something. Who's coming on? What?
Ramachandra Singh is here.
Oh, he just came on? Okay, well, he has to be careful because of the snow.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Haribol, I'm just so I'll be just participating and listening. So
Yeah, but be very careful with your arms. If you start gesturing wildly, you might turn the steering wheel and skid into the snowbank.
yeah. We have first time anyways.
Well,
Okay, let's continue, Prabhu.
Off the road into the abyss.
Yeah.
Are you
So
driving,
amazing, it's
Ramachandra?
No, I just arrived, so I'm just gonna check in.
Oh, you
and
did
then
arrive.
yeah,
Oh, that's
I've arrived.
marvelous.
That's what I said. I arrived.
Oh, I just understood.
Okay, so let's continue reading. So I want to hear.
Well, are you in your hotel room now?
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm still in my car, so I'm
Well, do you
doing
want
a
to
couple.
stabilize, get in your hotel room before participating, or do you want to participate now?
No, I'll just hear what you guys
Oh,
are
okay.
discussing.
So what's the next line, Ruth?
Okay.
It's the next one is above these senses.
Yeah.
Okay, could you read?
Above these senses or sense organs is a diametric force which is subtler than the sense organs and is known as the mind, but acts in terms of thinking, feeling, and willing. The empiric philosophers speculating on an imperfect process of induction generally indulge intellectual feats without knowing that behind the mind there is human intelligence, which is able to analyze the process of psychology, but is unable to find out the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence.
Yeah, there we go with all the great philosophers of Greece, Rome, Spain, Germany, and stuff like that. They all were able to get up to that level to some degree or another while drinking vintage wines and eating carved pieces of meat in rooms with swinging chandeliers on very beautiful tables. They were doing this intellectually, in other words. Okay, so above these senses is where we read it. You read?
Yeah, what do you think he means by the word diametric? Does he mean diametric?
I don't know.
Because I've never seen that word before.
I haven't either.
Maybe he made it up.
Or it could be a typo.
Or it could be a typo. So the spirit that conducts even intelligence is the primeval root of everything. And there is an adjustment of spirit and matter as much as there is an adjustment of
Wait,
smoke.
we haven't discussed that one up there. Wait.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, above. Okay, the mind. Above the sense organs and is known as the mind. Remember, he's writing to somebody who has already got his mind made up as to what he thinks he's going to accomplish. He's going to accomplish bringing the philosophy of the East to meet with and mate with and reproduce with the philosophy of the West. And Prabhupada is very delicately suggesting that the philosophy of the West will not be up to the standard of being able to do that. So he says, above these sensitive sense organs, the diametric force. So he's talking from he starts first talking about the gross senses, which any Westerner can easily understand from his own life. Is known as the mind, but the mind is, in the West, is subject to millions and millions of things. Psychology comes from the study of the mind. Philosophy comes from the study of the mind. So many things come from the mind. And he says the notice man acts in terms of thinking, feeling, and willing. So wherever we're thinking, feeling, and willing, that is actually separate from the physical body and the senses. But what happens is we think how to enjoy the senses. We feel that we want to enjoy the senses. And willing means let's go do it, enjoy the senses. So that is the downside of the mind in the material world, thinking, feeling, and willing. The empiric philosopher is speculating on an imperfect process. You see, he's now involving the very thinkers that this man would like to involve, West meets East. Now Prabhupada has pounced into the West, saying empiric philosophers speculating on an imperfect process of induction generally indulge in intellectual feats without knowing that behind the mind there is human intelligence which is able to analyze the process of psychology, but is unable to find out the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence. So he's saying that the Western philosophers and theologians, if you will, are able to move into these realms, but they're unable to find out the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence. So they can dabble with psychology. You see, he mentioned psychology. Human intelligence, which is able to analyze the process of psychology. Well, he's going to that guy's camp in order to tell him that he doesn't have anything that he doesn't, that the
he has nothing to add.
Yes, he has nothing to and nothing to use to control the encounter with the philosophy of the East. Prabhupada is making clear that the West will be faltering in that encounter, because he said it's unable to find out the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence. So now here he's talking about the jiva, which the West has no conception of, because the West is based on the notion that God created the soul. As long as we even begin to temporarily entertain the notion that God created the soul, we're not going to be able to deal with the reality that the soul is the jiva, or eternal spiritual being, that you are body after body, not given each time you take a body, given by God each time you take a body. Okay, did we finish that one? Yeah. Okay, so what? Vedanta first. Yes, unable to find the ultimate force or spirit behind their intelligence. Well, he's talking about the jiva. He's also talking about Paramatma. The ultimate force would be Paramatma, and the spirit would be the jiva, or whatever. Mainly it's the jiva. Okay, so go ahead.
Should I keep reading?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, ask Ramachandra, he's in charge.
No, this is very interesting that you're reading this, Rupa Manjari. Why is it reading it? Because of our previous discussion about the 5 things, or why? What made you choose this
I
letter?
just
Or
randomly selected a letter and I liked it, so I went with it.
oh, interesting, excellent. Okay,
In
let's
other words,
continue then.
She was guided by Krishna.
Oh,
I just clicked letters and then I clicked 1953 and there was one letter there and this was it.
okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
But you were guided. Do you admit that you were guided by Krishna?
Of course.
Okay,
Very
good.
well. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, so let's see. So the spirit that conducts even intelligence is the primeval root of everything. And there is an adjustment of spirit and matter as much as there is an adjustment of smoke and fire. The smoke is a conditional state of fire, and therefore smoke is nothing but fire. And yet we cannot compare smoke and fire on the same platform. Smoke emanates from fire, but it is disturbing condition of fire. We need fire and not the smoke.
Oh, this is a tough one. So the answer must be at the top. So the spirit that conducts even intelligence is the primeval root of everything. So he's saying the jiva conducts intelligence. It is the primeval root of everything. Ah, that's the fire. And there is an adjustment of spirit and matter as much as there's an adjustment of smoke and fire. So spirit is the fire and matter is the smoke. Do you see, Ramachandra, how tight and complex this writing is compared to what he wrote in his books?
Yeah, that's
the reason is nobody reading Prabhupada's books would have the intellect to be able to puzzle through this. And you can see that after years of reading Prabhupada's books, I'm having trouble puzzling through it. I have to go step by step very cautiously.
yeah, right. Yeah, this is 1953. Wow.
Yeah, so this is how densely powerful Prabhupada's writing is. And when he came to America, people are suddenly gaga goo goo mentality. He adjusted everything to that. But that's fine, because that's where we were, and that's where pretty much everyone else was. I doubt very keenly that there are any PhD philosophy scholars who could read this and get all the points that are there that are accomplished by you, me, and Rupa Manjari, who are neophytes, but readers of Prabhupada's Bani, his writing of his books. Does that make sense? We're able to struggle through this, but I don't think there's any great philosophy, any great Sanskrit scholar or Vedic scholar that would be able to come up with the right answers on these things here.
No,
Or if they did, it
I-
would take them a long time.
so no, my question is, can you give an example of that? You were saying about a PhD scholar and a devotee reading Prabhupada's books. So can you give an example of?
Okay, well, I mean, we can say just the way this writes. So the spirit that conducts even intelligence is the primeval root of everything. There is an adjustment of spirit and matter as much as there's an adjustment of smoke and fire. Do you think that would be easily understood without a background in Bhagavad-Gita and writing and ISKCON teachings to a scholar?
Like he's making it in layman's terms.
So you're
He
saying
is.
you're saying that presented in Prabhupada's books, that is more simpler to understand than this letter. Is that it?
Absolutely, don't you think?
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. I was like, what
But
is
he's doing this on purpose because the guy writing the letter has got a big puffed up idea in his brain of what he's doing. He has a big idea what he's doing. Oh, we're going to take east and west like Vivekananda
right.
and Carl Jung or something of that sort, you know. He's trying to combine things in a way that he can understand and control. So Prabhupada is writing in a way that he can't possibly understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this guy can probably not understand what Prabhupada is saying. But if he can struggle through it and get to what Prabhupada is saying, he realizes he's out of his league. He's out of his path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Okay, don't go further. Rupa, I haven't finished. Could you scroll down?
Scroll up, you mean?
Oh, whatever. Put the text down. Okay. The smoke is conditional state of fire. Okay, so he's saying that matter is a conditional state of the absolute.
Or can you say that the forgetfulness is a conditional state also? No?
What is?
The forgetfulness.
Well, where's forgetfulness in this passage?
No, you're saying matter for the soul, forgetfulness of Krishna. Isn't that a temporary
he hasn't
state?
gotten into that yet, as far as I can see. Has he?
Okay.
He hasn't got talking. He's sneaking up on the absolute.
Yeah. Okay.
In such a way as not to freak out the guy he wrote to.
Okay. Let's go for it then.
The smoke, you see, he's trying to make it rational. The smoke is a conditional state of fire, and therefore smoke is nothing but fire. Yet we cannot compare smoke and fire on the same platform. So we're saying that matter is nothing but a conditional, it's nothing but spiritual energy, and yet we can compare smoke and fire on spiritual energy and material energy on the same platform.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Prabhu. I said that could mean the same thing about a conditioned soul and a pure liberated soul, Uttama Adhikari. His consciousness and the consciousness of a.
Or I think he's talking about the platform of those things.
Yeah, the platform of those things. Yes.
So he writes, smoke emanates from fire, but it is disturbing condition of fire. So he's saying Maya or material energy is a disturbing condition of spiritual existence. We need the fire and not the smoke. So he's saying we need spiritual life and not the smoke. And what is the smoke? It's what's in this guy's brain trying to make a coalition between Prabhupada's spiritual League of Devotees and the Western way of thinking of philosophers and psychologists. Okay, let's go to the next one, dear. Prabhu.
Okay.
The primal present smoky.
The present smoky material or sensual civilization has to be kindled into the fire of reality or spiritual civilization. It is neither difficult nor impossible. It is just a simple process of fanning the fire in order to get rid of the disturbing smoke. The fanning process is eternally the same and one, and the empiric speculators have nothing to invent new in it. It must be actually a fanning in spiritualized process and nothing else. The great philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita is the authoritative book to guide us in this respect. We have nothing to drag in it by foreign empiric interpretation. Let it be understood as it is, because it is just like the sun. The sun does not require to be helped by the light. So there is no need of understanding Bhagavad-Gita by indirect interpretation. Kurukshetra is Kurukshetra. Dharmakshetra is Dharmakshetra. The Pandavas are Pandavas, or the sons of Pandu, and nobody else. The Pandavas and Kauravas, not actually at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita was told by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Is that the end of that?
Yeah.
So now you can see that he's really taking that guy to the cleaners. He's saying, if you want to deal with Eastern philosophy, meaning the League of Devotees, Eastern philosophy, Bhagavad Dharma, he says the present smoky material or sensual civilization has to be kindled into the fire of reality or spiritual civilization. So this is what we have been dealing with here, where we're saying ISKCON can no longer continue to be an off branch of the Catholic Church, but must be kindling fanning the fire in order to get rid of the disturbing smoke. What is the disturbing smoke? The GBC. They have tried to turn themselves into a reality factor. Doesn't work. Okay, the present smoky material or sensual civilization has to be kindled into the fire of reality or spiritual civilization. Okay, that means we're cutting out everything that he thinks he's offering, because he wants to combine Western civilization with spiritual civilization. And Prabhupada says it has to be burned up. That whole, his philosophy has to be burned up, because otherwise how do you get spiritual civilization? Then he says it's neither difficult nor impossible. It's just a simple process of fanning the fire in order to get rid of the disturbing smoke. So he's really saying, you know, he's basically saying, without saying it, if you chant Hare Krishna, you will burn up the karma of material existence. And that gets rid of the disturbing smoke. The fanning process is eternally the same and one, and the empiric speculators have nothing to prevent you in it. So the fanning process means Shravanam Kirtanam.
Mm-hmm.
It's eternally the same and one. And the empiric speculators have nothing to prevent you in it. So what he's telling that guy is, you've got nothing to offer. Because all you have to do is fan the fire, and the smoke will be vanished in the heat of the fire. Right now you're dealing with your philosophy of the West as smoke. Let's fan the fire of the Vedic, and it will burn up the smoke of the West. Okay? The fanning process is eternally the same in one, and the empiric speculators have nothing to prevent you in it. It must be actually a fanning in spiritualized process and nothing else. So what he's really saying is, this is not a place to sit down like Yogananda with a bunch of rich Western women dressed in saris or whatever, Indian dress. This is actually a fanning of the spiritualized process, not sitting there, you know, cozying up in a cuddly atmosphere of a yoga Nanda ashram. So it has to be actual fanning. So he's saying that without having introduced the concept yet, he's talking about chanting the holy name of Krishna to burn up the illusion of material existence. The great philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita is the authoritative book to guide us in this respect. Okay, so now he's put his sword on the table. The great philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita is the authoritative book to guide us in this respect. So while this guy reads through this whole thing, he's getting less and less certain that his Western philosophers have anything to contribute. So now Prabhupada hits him with the great philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita is the authoritative book to guide us in this respect. We have nothing to drag in by foreign empiric interpretations. So he's really saying, you want to make a merger of sort of a Western Eastern marriage of philosophy, and he's saying you can't do that. We have nothing to drag in it by foreign empiric interpretation. Let it be understood as it is, because it is just like the sun. The sun does not require to be helped by the light. Can you imagine how insulting Bhagavad is being without being openly insulting? He's saying the sun is what we're offering with the Bhagavad Gita. It can't be helped by the light of Western philosophy, right? So that's pretty scorchy. So there is no need of understanding Bhagavad Gita by indirect interpretation. In other words, this guy said, good, we'll get the Bhagavad Gita and then we'll figure out our own way of understanding it. That's the basic of these Yogananda types. Let it be understood as because it's just like the sun. Okay. So there's no need of understanding the Bhagavad Gita by indirect interpretation. Then he says some things that are sort of obvious, but hard for me to understand why he said it. Kurukshetra is Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra is Dharmakshetra. The Pandavas are Pandavas and the sons of Pandu and nobody else. The Pandavas and Kauravas not actually at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita was told by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So I think he put those in as sort of like sculpture or objects of art, saying that Kurukshetra is Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra is Dharmakshetra. He's pointing out that you can't add or subtract to the Bhagavad Gita, and that the Bhagavad Gita is like the sun that does not require to be helped by the light. So what he's really saying to this guy is, if you want to invite me over to do this, understand it has to be on my terms, meaning Dharma, Uttava Adhikari platform, and we are not going to be mushing the philosophy around and trying to have Western minds do their best to reinterpret the Bhagavad Gita in their own way. Okay, then he says, what's the next line, Ruki?
Okay. I wish that your people may try to understand Bhagavad Gita in terms of its direct meaning. Let it not be unnecessarily misunderstood by the empiric speculative method, for making others of the vanity of so-called learning without any living experience. Such academic erudity has nothing to do with the living reality.
Okay, so he basically summed up, we are not Vivekananda. In other words, Vivekananda with Bhagavad Gita would say empiric speculative method, which is an intellectually complementary way of saying making up your own ideas. I wish that your people may try to understand Bhagavad Gita in terms of its direct meaning, as it is. He uses the word as it is before did you notice? He had not yet published the Bhagavad Gita as it is. But he said Bhagavad Gita as it is in this letter. Let it not be unnecessarily misunderstood by the empiric speculative method. So he's saying, don't even think of picking up your knife and fork and napkin, putting your napkin in your neck and start drooling over what you're going to interpret the Bhagavad Gita as meaning with your own Western mentality. You'd love to do that, but that's not going to happen in this case. It already happened with Vivekananda, which is what this guy is probably following. Not necessarily Vivekananda personally, but the notion that you get the Eastern guy over and he's so grateful not to be in poverty in India. There's a chance to give him a temple, a chance to give him some money, a chance he might get some good, sexy girlfriend, and all of those things. That out of that, he'll be so grateful that he'll let people cut the Gita to pieces, which will give them a type of pleasure. And then he'll come in and add to their speculations, making them feel even better as they go along picking at the Gita. So Prabhupada is making quite clear that's not going to happen.
I shall try to present an analytical study of Bhagavad-Gita through the pages of your American reporter in order to help the American people to understand Bhagavad-Gita as it is. If your people can grasp the direct meaning of Bhagavad-Gita, it will be possible for us all to know the basic principle of cosmic harmony. When that is done, we shall know that all maladjustment of our existence is not only peaceful, but an eternal bliss distinguished from the ephemeral temporary sensual satisfaction. We shall then only know that here is a world where there is no struggle for existence, and every living entity, never mind what it is, either a man or a beast, is fit to exist. The enclosed piece of article and the blank is the first of a series of articles on the above subject to understand Bhagavad Gita by its direct meaning.
Okay, so it's fairly self-obvious what he's saying, right? At this point, he's completely politely skirted that fellow's entire ambition and desire and plan to get Prabhupada to eat out of his hand, because he's, after all, a poor Indian sadhu. And he's sending in a section of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I'd like everyone to notice that Prabhupada uses, what year was this published? 54?
53.
53. So this is 15 years, more or less, before he published Bhagavad Gita as it is. 1970 is when Bhagavad Gita as it is was actually came out. So 53, 63. So it's actually like 28 years different, something like that. 27, 28 years later, he publishes Bhagavad Gita as it is with Macmillan. And here we see that Prabhupada is discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, as though the book is already written. Because of that, I would beg everyone to understand that when Prabhupada spoke at any point, he is a Nuttamadikari speaking as a transparent via medium of Krishna. So all of his words, past and present, and ones that he has archived on tapes, these are all absolutes. And the people have started temples, started becoming gurus, preaching without going to Prabhupada's absolutes and studying them instead of reading a book and then saying, this is my interpretation of it. That's exactly what Prabhupada is avoiding in this letter. They should not get a copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is, read it through a dozen times, think they understand it, then sit there, now I'm a guru, I will tell you what it means. Well, no, you have to go to the core of what Prabhupada is saying, not simply your interpretation of what he's saying. That's what he was specifically avoiding in the lower part of this letter. So he says, I'll try to present an analytical study of Bhagavad Gita through the pages of your American reporter in order to help the American people to understand Bhagavad Gita as it is. So he has already completely committed to Bhagavad-Gita as it is. He is not faltering, even though he has no idea that he's even coming to America. If your people can grasp the direct meaning of Bhagavad-Gita, it will be possible for us all to know the basic principle of cosmic harmony. So here he's saying something rather heavy, isn't it? If your people can grasp the direct meaning of Bhagavad-Gita, meaning Krishna, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From that, if people understand that, it will be possible for us all to know the basic principle of cosmic harmony. So we're not just talking about peace on earth, goodwill towards men. We're talking about being in harmony with the cosmos, meaning the greater expression of the creation. When that is done, we shall know that all maladjustment in our existence is not only peaceful, but an eternal bliss, distinguished from the ephemeral, temporary sensual satisfaction. So he's talking about the soul being out of focus with Krishna, out of adjustment with him as the Uttama Adhikari, transparent via media of Krishna, but not putting that up on the table, that eternal bliss. So he's saying when you surrender to me, the eternal bliss distinguished from the ephemeral, temporary, sensual satisfaction. Yeah, so that means spirit, the jiva choosing spirit over matter. And this can be done through Lord Paramatma. We shall then only know that there's a world where there's no struggle for existence. Every living being, never mind what it is, either man or beast, is fit to exist. The enclosed piece of article and the blank is the first of a series of articles on the above subject to understand the Bhagavad Gita by its direct meaning. Okay, that's a very complete statement. But you can see that poor guy probably had a hard time. You agree?
Yeah.
Say something. You say something. I've been saying. Go ahead, express yourself.
I think this is an amazing letter. Srila Prabhupada is really going in depth with what is the problem and what is the solution.
Keep going.
Well, I think when he talks about East versus West, I get the feeling that the other guy is wanting to merge the East and the West. And Prabhupada is basically saying there is no mergence. It's all East. It's all Vedic. And the West has to come to that realization and change.
Keep going. Brilliant.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
Yeah, I mean, many times when Prabhupada was present, people tried to have interfaith conventions, and Prabhupada was like, this is not going to work, unless you come to the level of spirit soul and then seeing every living entity and part and parcel of Krishna. And then having... Yes.
Yeah, otherwise, what on earth can people do? Go ahead, Rupa, you're going to come up with...
Prabhupada would refuse to go to interfaith gatherings. He would only go to places where he was featured as the keynote speaker.
Yeah.
Actually, when he came with Dr. Kapoor, not Dr. Kapoor, who was it he was with when he came to America?
Mishra, Dr. Mishra.
Dr. Mishra. Dr. Mishra brought him over especially to be one of his flock of sheep that he would put up on a stage. And he put several up at once, and they'd all have terms of expressing their view of spiritual life or their view of perfection. And that would be for money, for Dr. Mishra to make money on it. After a few of those sessions, Prabhupada refused to do it. He said, I won't speak unless I speak alone. Because why do I want to be homogenized into all of this Mayavada stuff?
Yeah,
It-
yeah,
And
that's
so he
yeah,
actually gave up going with Dr. Mishra and went to New York. And that's where he suffered a great deal, was beaten up by a heroin addict in a YMCA room that he shared with a cocaine addict. But he was able to conduct the whole process.
yeah. There's a wonderful meeting with Srila Prabhupada and Yogi Bhajan. Rupert, do you remember that meeting where
Yeah,
Yogi Bhajan is?
that's infamous, that meeting.
Yeah, right. So
Keep going.
it's
Describe the meeting.
well, Yogi Bhajan was a prominent figure, and he was trying to invite Srila Prabhupada to their festival of some kind of interfaith convention where people of different religions would come and have a meeting. So Srila Prabhupada was just, how can you say, just saying that, okay, unless I forget, the context of the conversation, what exactly happened, but Prabhupada, like Rupa Manjari Prabhu said, Prabhupada was not interested.
So Prabhupada didn't go?
Prabhupada did not go. As a matter of fact, he said this thing will never work, whatever they were doing.
And did it?
Oh, of course it won't work. It's just there to make money
Did-
off of people that want to take their PhD in religion and add a few perks to it.
Yeah, that brings up a next. Yes, Rupa, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's amazing how there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of bogus yogis, spouting verses from various sources, but they, each and every one of them, are impersonalists or sahajiyas or mayavadis. None of them are following in Prabhupada's line. And it's like they almost are afraid to, or maybe Krishna has banished them so that they
just simply don't want to. They're there for profit, adoration, and distinction. Why should they follow anything? They just want to take from the Vedas and capitalize on it. They're not trying to liberate people. They're trying to get money from people, or at least fame and recognition and large crowds of people listening to them.
Aren't
Why
the
should
ISKCON
they-
people still doing it? I mean, to a degree, the ISKCON gurus, aren't they doing the same thing, but in a more?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
And Bhaktivinoda Thakur would call that secularization.
yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah, they're busy secularizing in order to get followers. Fortunately, for the followers, they are reading from Prabhupada's books. Unfortunately for the followers, they're not unchanged books.
they'll change
If
books,
they
right?
are unchanged books, you have to go through some sort of hell with a Ritik guru of some sort.
So, I mean, now that for the League for 10K, we're looking at the future of the Krishna consciousness
Exactly.
movement started by Srila Prabhupada. So, we're making a distinction, very line in the sand, as they say. Prabhupada the center, and Prabhupada's Kirtans, Prabhupada's original books. In this way, there is no question of who's the Acharya and who's the spiritual head, and everyone is his disciples, not some distraction guy that comes and then loops. So
Well, yeah, but I think the basic reality and the basic tendency towards truth is there. For instance, I was at a Mother's Day gathering for Shakuntala and Nischintya. Rashad was
Okay.
there, and my son Kuma was there from from New Zealand.
oh, he is
And I started
today.
talking about how in the end we have to go to Prabhupada for the sound vibration, because no matter who's the guru, and no matter what the guru teaches, if he doesn't represent Prabhupada's sound vibration, there's not
Yeah.
going to be any good outcome or result.
Yeah, any success, right?
What did they say to that?
They were
That's a very
they've at that tone, at that moment, they all jumped in and agreed 100%.
Jai.
So I was very astonished. Later on, there became some painful disagreements. But that moment, we all agreed.
Agreed.
Prabhupada is the only Uttamadhikari source of transcendental sound vibration.
I mean,
And to think that there's another source, you got to be out of your mind.
so, so I mean, that's a very good start. But didn't they realize that in the beginning? I mean, come on, they've been devotees for 50 years now, close to at least, huh?
Well, that's the problem. They've all been following people. They've been following the GBC. If the GBC had remained an elected body, there would be no, and if the temples had not been turned into one mush of international corporation of ISKCON, if those two factors had been left in place, nobody would have had anywhere to turn except Srila Prabhupada for authentic Kirtan. And the matters were very confused because Prabhupada was right there letting them do it.
But the thing is that they have bogus gurus. Kuva is initiated to Sachinandan Swami, and Rishabh Dev is initiated to Narayan Maharaj.
Oh, he was initiated by Prabhupada. I know. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, fine and dandy. I'm no longer in a very partisan state of mind. Fine and dandy. We're initiated by Prabhupada, you're initiated by Narayan Maharaj, or Sachinandan. Great. But where is the source of the sound vibration? If Sachinandan doesn't say, I try to listen to Prabhupada and try to chant exactly the way he chants, I say, what use is this man? He's simply trying to deviate and do his own thing.
So then let me ask a question. They agreed on that part, but what part did they disagree on? I mean, what's the disagreement then?
I'm not quite sure.
Oh,
I don't really know. Huh. I don't really know because we were having a great time talking, and then it turned into a thing where it was a painful conversation.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And of course, everybody blamed me for having been the source of the painful conversation. So
it's okay. They got to blame someone, right? It might well be you.
Well, they do if they want to, but why do they want to? You know?
No, I'm just kidding, bro. That's the way the mind works, you know. They kind of cling to, you know. I mean, that's something I realized that, you know, we always want to put blame to someone else. But
the thing is that what Narayan says is extremely controversial. So people get pissed off at him for saying what is truthful when they have been like conditioned with lies.
Right.
Well, we can't blame them. We can't blame anybody for anything, actually.
Right.
I mean, if we blame people, then we're missing out on the fact that they have been trying to make spiritual advancement in very dire circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They're trying to make spiritual advancement. Anybody's trying to make spiritual advancement with an ISKCON guru, all I can say is I take off my hat to you, sir. You've chosen a very difficult path because it's so indirect. And the worst that can happen is you're going to become his wife in a next birth or something. You know, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. This is.
Once you take Prabhupada out of the picture, you have uncertainty. Isn't that a nice way to put it?
Yeah, that's what I realized.
Picture, but he's dead and gone, but as you say, taking Prabhupada out of the picture, you have uncertainty. That's really electrifying situation, no?
Yeah, that's a very dangerous situation for the conditioned soul.
It is GBC's gift to all of us is taking Prabhupada out of the picture and replacing him with people that can't possibly deliver you from birth and death. So they try to make it like a church. where it's not the priest that can deliver you, but the process of the existence, the body, the GBC body can deliver you from birth and death. Except what is the Catholic Church, at least the Vatican, the cardinals are all worked their way up through the ranks or were appointed by the popes or something like that. They have a way of getting there. These guys just sort of crowded in like a mob, and there's no established idea as to how they even got there.
Don't they acknowledge that they don't actually do the delivering that Prabhupada does, and that they're just the like hold my hand guru?
I'm not really sure. What do you say, Ramachandra? You're more on the street level
ISKCON
of
world.
these
I'm the street sweeper of ISKCON.
not street
Well,
sweeper. You're standing
So-
on the street level of.
I'm yelling at them. Okay, so my understanding is that for example, Biru Krishna came here and initiated some people, and then he flies out. So he's saying, I'm acting as a guru. He said it in a video that I've recorded myself. He said, I'm acting as a guru. Then before that, he says, we must dedicate our lives to Srila Prabhupada, bring them to Krishna consciousness. And then he says, I'm acting like a guru. Then he laughs and then looks at me. I said, maybe. And then he said, oh, I'm acting as a
Who
guru.
said maybe?
Bir Krishna, Swami.
Yeah.
It's all
he's
it's all
himself-
recorded in video.
He
The
may
funny
be
part is
Jewish, but
He
he's
is Jewish.
acting. He's Jewish, yeah, but he's acting like a Catholic priest.
yeah. So I mean, my little experience in Krishna consciousness with them is they don't offer any substance. I mean, I came to Krishna consciousness through Srila Prabhupada's books. I came in contact with devotees. I like them, but I don't think like them,
Right.
Precisely.
Well, put it more accurately, they don't think the way you do.
Yeah, they don't think the way I do. And this was because I was new in Krishna consciousness, some 7-8 years ago. So who and where would I go? I go to the local temple. I saw them as, okay, they've been practicing Krishna consciousness for 20, 30, 40 years. They must offer something nice. I mean, they have a following, right? This is what we're looking at. I mean, that's what
you see that. Okay, so your own experience tells you the way in which Krishna consciousness propagates.
Yeah, the social. I mean,
Well, it's just about social means actually it just means yes, social. So it is material. It's on the material level.
Yeah, it's very on the material level, because people are asking me to get initiated. You've been here, you've been distributing books, you've been doing this. Like I know I don't feel that I should be initiated because I'm already doing the service, and I have my realizations that Prabhupada is the guru. So in that, and I never felt anything that was missing from my spiritual life.
Oh no, of course not, because you went to the core. You went to the core issue.
Yeah.
Not to the you didn't go to see people and understand them and go to dinner at their house and they say this is, and my guru is the biggest, fattest one of the bunch. Nothing like that.
Yeah, I was always disturbed. I'm like, why are they doing this glorification of this guru, that guru? Why they don't, glorify Srila Prabhupada? I was like, always disturbed.
That's a good question, isn't it? Well, because the GBC taught them to glorify that guru instead of Prabhupada. Put it this way, clearly, the GBC does not want anyone to glorify Prabhupada. They want them to glorify their agents, their shopkeepers. They're just appointed shopkeepers.
Because then they'll give money to the shopkeepers.
Yeah, the shopkeepers keep the business running. And they keep charge, just like a kindergarten class. They keep the kids under control.
Yeah.
So what's the
Yeah,
difference
so
between an ISKCON guru and a kindergarten teacher? Not very much.
not very much, right? Right. Not very much. So
Because they're all working for the state. The ISKCON gurus are working for the state of GDC, and
yeah,
the kindergarten teachers are working for the state of California.
yeah. So I mean, just like I have a job, menial job. So they're doing some kind of job under the direction of the, the corporation.
They're teachers. They're teaching
Yeah, like
math.
school
They're
teachers,
teaching,
right?
They're teaching spelling. They're not doing nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to the bogus, the ISKCON, the GVC appointed gurus, you're not going to lose out by listening to them give class.
But
You'll
where
learn
do you
something.
lose out? Well,
You lose out. You lose out existentially.
Okay, can you define that?
Yeah.
Accidentally.
What kindergarten
Existentially.
teacher asks you to give your life to that kindergarten teacher, and he will take you to college or something?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you got to put it in this.
If it's a kindergarten teacher or 8th grade teacher, where is that teacher offering that he can take you to Oxford?
Yeah, that's not even possible. I mean, it's not even remotely possible,
No,
because
he
the teacher.
can't guarantee it. It's possible you will go to Oxford. It's possible you'll come back later, many years later, and say to that teacher in the old age home and said, if it wasn't for you, I would never have gone to Oxford. But that's not exactly a direct cause and effect.
Yeah, the direct cause and effect. Yes, some people. Yeah, this is what I'm dealing with. Some people think, okay, as devotees, like for example, I give you a book, and then you become a devotee, and then the cause and effect. So this process of cause and effect plays a role in people taking a conditioned soul to guru. I've noticed that, because everyone else is doing it, and then you take service, or this guy helps you in your Krishna consciousness.
Well, the whole problem is, as you said earlier, what is the difference between the kindergarten teacher and the ISKCON guru? The ISKCON guru, it's as though the kindergarten teacher guarantees you will get a degree from Oxford. The kindergarten teacher can't make that guarantee.
Okay, we have Vinayak Sharma in the house.
Hey, Vinayak Sharma,
Sure.
please accept my obeisances. We had a very interesting paper that Rupa Manjari was delivering to us all earlier. I don't know if you heard it. Of course, you can always hear it online. But it was early, probably from 1953, Prabhupada's writing about the Bhagavad-Gita to a person that wanted him to come, or at least participate in maybe not come to America, but participate in a philosophical discussion, which the guy assumed was going to be relativistic. And, you give points to the Western philosopher, and you give points to the Gita, like that. And Prabhupada made it clear that the Gita is indisputable. He did so. It took an hour to get through that paper, which is just a few paragraphs, because it was such an intense paper. Rupa Manjari?
Yeah.
She's here, yes.
Okay. Or
yeah. So my question here is the disco music coming through or no? There's a disco music going on in the background.
No, it's not coming through.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Anyways, this is that's very interesting. That how can we be thankful to people who have, like, for example, we have taken initiation. I mean, not initiation, but we have taken help from these devotees who are, who are treading with these, these appointed gurus. We wish the best for them.
well, yes,
and then
Go ahead.
1 second. I'm getting a call, so I'll be back. Haribol.
Okay. So to answer the question, I believe the people that he's talking about are essentially spayed and neutered. They come to the guru and the guru neuters them. So now they are completely dependent on the guru. They can't go and reproduce, and breed, and all that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm back. Haribol. Okay.
Okay. So what I was really saying is that the guru spays and neuters his disciples so that they cannot go and do anything on their own.
Yeah, this is very disturbing to me because I see the great potential in these wonderful spirit souls that, they've taken up the process, but there's
they're
something
stuck.
that's holding
They're
them back.
limited, right?
Yeah, they're stuck.
They're
Yeah,
operating in little circles. That's why I
Yeah.
did the example of being like spayed and neutered. As soon as you cut the reproductive organs out of a dog or a cat, then you have a creature which is different than the wild creature that you had before.
yeah. So, this is the
And so
difficulty
but they
that I'm
want them
dealing
like that. They want them to be completely stuck there.
Huh. Yeah, and none of these wonderful devotees have any, they've been in the business, devotee business, meaning, chanting and eating prasadam for more than 20, 30 years. And the sad part is that the children are also being introduced to these Kanishta Adhikari, gurus. I mean, these children have been born in the movement. They've been chanting Hare Krishna since, in the womb of the mother.
If you consider the GBC, just not to get too mysterious about what's happening. It's not mysterious at all. Oh, it's not mysterious at all. It's like a person who's born in the Catholic Church. Why? Why did the recording stop?
Oh, no, the recording did not stop.
It said, I got an announcement that the recording stopped.
Okay,
Now
it's still live.
It became alive again just now.
Oh. Anyways,
Yeah,
I guess.
okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, so we were. I was saying that these children who have.
Hello?
Yeah, I keep getting kicked out for some reason.
Really?
Anyway, it's working now.
I know, but where's Ramachandra?
He is here now.
Are you there, Ramachandra? Prabhu? My son said he's not there.
Yeah, he's here.
Are you there, Ramachandra?
Okay, we were having some technical difficulties, so now we're back. So we should be good now.
Okay.
So yes, Narayan Prabhu, we were talking about. I'll say it over again if Rupa can hear, and
children.
then I can. Yes, the children who have been given insufficient guidance, by these GVC.
If you consider the GVC has deliberately and egregiously and illegally and offensively to the Sampradaya modeled itself after the Catholic Church. If you join the Catholic Church, you accept baptism, you accept everything, then you marry another Catholic, you have children together, and then the child that comes, and then you baptize the child. It's a religious function. It has nothing to do with spiritual life.
Religious function, nothing to do with spiritual life. Wow.
Yeah, well, don't you see? Anything to do with the GBC takeover of ISKCON is religious, not spiritual.
Yeah.
And if they chant Hare Krishna, that's nice. And there's probably more advantage to chanting Hare Krishna than something else. But in the Catholic Church, if you chant praise to Jesus, that's what they think they're doing.
I mean, but the children have been chanting Hare Krishna, so them getting initiated by Bir Krishna or Jai Pataka or someone else, what benefit do they get? I mean, they have already taken up the process.
Oh, they get the benefit of being a legitimate part of a group that identifies with each other. How
Yeah.
wonderful can things get?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's precisely it. So,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like it's like social. Like
yeah,
I have my guru and you have your guru, and let's all have a fun party because we all have our gurus.
Yeah, that
yeah,
would be true. Like if you have different branches of the Girl Scouts. Now, what if they want to have a big Girl Scout convention and also use some Girl Scout cookies? Well,
Yeah.
they get all the Girl Scout leaders get together, email each other, talk to each other, make plans, figure out where they're all going to stay, figure out what they're all going to eat, figure out what to do in case of emergencies. Then they have a great big get together of the Girl Scouts.
So,
what?
I mean, so this type of mentality, which, you know, it's brewing in ISKCON, you know, for a long time. I mean,
Well,
this is not Prabhupada's.
It's just say for a long time means exactly
Yeah.
since 1970.
Yeah. So, so the, you know, this is like people like what I'm saying is that children have been, you know, brainwashed also in this type of thinking. So for us to present that Prabhupada is in the center, you know, how can they take it up just like I did in the, you know, couple of years? I mean,
Well, neither you nor I have done it quite yet ourselves. If we look at Prabhupada as the only source of Kirtan, then we go to his recordings and memorize exactly the way he chants, listen to all the Kirtans he had with so many devotees, how did he handle those Kirtans? But if we do that, then we have got a weapon to work with that will last for 10,000 years. The whole key is keeping the Uttama Adhikari as the source of everything. And since Srila Prabhupada came and is an Uttama Adhikari, is a Shakti Vishavatar, some people say, if Prabhupada came like that, so what is the difficulty in keeping him in the center? We have his sound vibration, we have everything about him, so just keep him in the center. Why is people want to be in the center? Unless they want to create a church.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Go right ahead.
Ramachandra Prabhu, I've noticed that on your WhatsApp you have like lots of lists of all kinds of different people. I was wondering, why don't we bring as many people as we can onto this group's list and see if we can get people to come on and participate and increase our numbers, because, you know, we have pretty small numbers.
Well, yeah, we can talk about that. Sure. I mean, generally what I say is that people who like what we're doing, they can directly participate by joining the Ishtagoshti meetings that are held weekly.
Yeah, but I think what Rupa Manjari is suggesting, that you find all the people that you're dealing with and then send them access codes so they can jump in and join without the polite tipping of the hat. Is that what you meant, Rupa?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
If you know 100 people, can you send out 100 access codes so if they punch it, they automatically get included in the meeting?
Or just like, let's say you have 100 names and numbers, put those names and numbers into the League for 10K group and then send out the Zoom link so that all those 100 people see the Zoom link, and maybe a few of them will click on it and join the group.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can do that.
Because we're a little bit, you know, grabbing our ear by putting our hand behind our head, sort of thing, you know. We're not doing things directly yet.
Yeah, because we already know everything pretty much. Now we need new people to teach and to get on board with.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is something.
Right now, we know everything that needs to be known for the next 10,000 years. Basically,
Right.
I'm not saying we know everything. There's always aspects that we don't know. But if we can say that Prabhupada's sound vibration is going to be the Kirtan leadership of Kirtan, for the next 10,000 years, then if people take up the Kirtan, get on a big ego trip, they go out and start their own movement, call it something other than ISKCON, go for it. Those people are going to make advancement because you got the Kirtan sound from Prabhupada. If you change it and modify it, the sound, the Shakti Avatar of the Hare Krishna mantra is still offerable within your nonsensical chanting. The problem with nonsensical, no hard and fast rules, misunderstanding of Kirtan is that it will lead to secular divisions, because people will start chanting their own way, driven by their ego. What would drive? What would promote? What would appeal to anyone who has heard Prabhupada to chant differently than him? Now,
yeah, that's a good question.
You've never heard people chant like him. But when I joined the movement, if you were leading Kirtan and if you got off, they told you to either correct yourself or they replaced you during the Kirtan. Had to be like Prabhupada. As well as you can do. I mean, that's a real Prabhupada Kirtan, however, not done to the last detail. Now I'm talking about people wearing headsets and getting Prabhupada's Kirtans to the last detail. And there's a lot of psychic stuff in his Kirtans of how to lift the Kirtan, how to move the Kirtan. There's tons of stuff we never learned from Prabhupada of how to make a Kirtan just into a fabulous event, where by the leader giving certain inflection, he leads the followers into a completely different dimension somewhere. Prabhupada tried to do that, but because of Vishnu Chan being the authority of Kirtan, everybody chanted like Vishnu Chan. Nobody wanted to chant like Prabhupada. Okay? Does that answer your question, Rupa?
Yes.
Or if it doesn't, present your question or present your own answer.
Yeah.
Whatever satisfies you is what we want. Not what satisfies me, just one of many as a person talking, but what satisfies you. And
right.
what satisfies Vinay Sharma for that matter.
Well, these things that we're discussing, why haven't people figured it out? I mean, it's pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, I was able to figure it out in my little experience.
So you're asking why they can't figure it out. It's because it's not bona fide to figure it out. It is GBC ISKCON bona fide means you follow the ISKCON gurus.
Maybe there's a way we could find lists of WhatsApp groups of ISKCON people and like get in there and grab a bunch of names and numbers and then add them to our group.
Can that be done, Ramachandra?
I'm here, so I'm just on the phone. So yeah.
What? You're on the phone right now?
Yeah. So well, it's, you said it's not bona fide to figure out. I mean, what do you mean by it's not bona fide?
It means that if you go to an ISKCON guru and ask him to figure it out, he'll tell you it's not bona fide.
Oh, okay. That's what have you meant? Okay.
I mean, once you've accepted another human being as an authority, as an absolute authority that is going to take you personally back to home, back to Godhead, and play in the fields of Vrindavan or whatever. Once he tells you it's not bona fide, why would you do it? Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if I initiate an ISKCON says I'm not an Uttama Adhikari, Prabhupada is saying here that the guru must be an Uttama Adhikari. So the next question is then
ISKCON guru said that, then anytime you talk about Prabhupada, everybody would be eager to hear because the ISKCON Guru said you should. Did I get your meaning correctly? If the ISKCON Guru continuously refers to Prabhupada and says you should listen to Prabhupada, and his vibration is the only pure vibration there is, if the ISKCON Guru says that, then if you do it, you'll make great spiritual advancement because you'll be directed by your older brother to your master, to your spiritual master. What do you say?
Yeah, I say yes.
You're on a phone call?
No, I'm in my little kutir now. So okay, let's see if we have any questions. One devotee asked, "Are you trying to imitate Prabhupada by singing like Prabhupada?" Edwin Chandra Prabhu is asking, "Are you trying to imitate Prabhupada by singing like Prabhupada?"
Well, not exactly imitate. If your father or grandfather tells you a story from the 1800s that was handed down in his family, and you repeat that to your children, are you imitating your grandfather? If it's a true story, or not true or not true, but it's stories handed down by your grandfather, generation after generation, to him and then to you, and then you tell your children, is that imitation? Or you're just imitating your grandfather? Or are you passing on the vital information the way you received it?
Try.
You see, chanting like your spiritual master is receiving, accepting, and then utilizing what you can learn, realizing that your chanting is imperfect, knowing you must go back and hear some more. It's not imitating. It is, how can you say I'm imitating my guru by following his instructions? So Prabhupada said, don't eat meat. I'll imitate Prabhupada and not eat meat. Is that what people think? Right? You know what I mean? How can you call that? How can you call that imitating? If Prabhupada says follow the 4 regulated principles, I'll imitate Prabhupada and follow the regulated principles. No, you obey. So when you hear a kirtan from Prabhupada, you obey the sound vibration emanating from his lotus mouth. You obey. Maybe a tough concept for rugged individualists of this kind who like to say no hard and fast rules means rock and roll, baby, rock and roll. Jai, Haribol, rock and roll. But if you get down to the basic simplicity of take an innocent person and place them in a room with Srila Prabhupada chanting, or in a place with headphones so they can hear Prabhupada chanting, are they imitating if they chant like Prabhupada? Or are they obeying the instruction of Srila Prabhupada? Why do you say imitate? If you don't imitate, what do? Do your own style? And that will take you back to Godhead? It didn't take you back to God. It didn't take you back to Godhead yet, did it?
It's like if you're a child in kindergarten learning the ABC and you decide to invert the A and reverse the B and put a dot in the middle of the C, that's not following what the teacher told to do. So
right.
It's the same with Prabhupada's kirtans. He gave it a certain way so that we would chant that way too.
Thank you. That's perfect. Perfectly uttered. I struggled with it. You came out perfectly.
What did you say, Rupa?
Say that again. So Ramachandra can.
I was saying it's like if you're a child in kindergarten learning the ABC and you invert the A and you reverse the B and you put a dot in the middle of the C, you could say, oh, I'm being creative. but you're not. You're changing what the teacher gave and the teacher said is the right way to do it.
Yeah, that's very simple, simply understood.
And it's amazing that our movement has disintegrated to the point that a person, with all respects to the person, it's not an invitation, not putting you down, just we're trying to educate you. I hope you're hearing the answers, because we're putting effort into answering you on Istagosti, as it's what Istagosti is for. You presented a question, and you can present whatever ideas you like on this Istagosti, not just ask a question about, is that imitating if you, but what we're trying to say is, no, Prabhupada taught us, chanted to teach us how to chant. And it is great offense, as a matter of fact, of the disciple, if he deviates from what the spiritual master teaches. This is a toughie, because we've been taught to deviate.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this thing. These children who are growing up in Krishna consciousness, they have all these talents, but apparently, they chant all kind of mantras and beats and stuff like that. So,
but they're children.
But they're children, meaning that
if our preaching, if our work continues and is successful, then they will see the value of chanting like Prabhupada. And said, what does St. Paul said? When I was a child, I played like a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put aside all childish things. So if they're doing all those things, as children, then when they get older, they can say, okay, I'm putting aside my Mary had a little lamb Kirtan. I'm going to chant like Prabhupada because I've accepted him in spite of the fact there's a distance in terms of birth. Right. And he's not personally present in front of me. He's personally present in his sound vibration. So I accept that, and I will emulate that, not what I was doing as a child.
Yeah. What else was I going to say? Let me see if there's any more questions here. There's another question by Alan. He says, Srila Prabhupada loved to listen to Vishnu John Swami himself. What do you think about that? Maybe you can give a...
First of all, who says Prabhupada loved to listen to Vishnu John Swami himself? I knew Vishnu John Swami. Vishnu John Swami and I joined the same San Francisco temple. Vishnu John joined a few months before I did. I never noticed Prabhupada loving the way Vishnu John chanted. He honored him for chanting so much, but he didn't, Vishnu John didn't really follow Prabhupada completely. Frankly, if you really want to know the truth, after all these years, I consider that Vishnu John, before he was a Swami and after he became a Swami, was autistic. And what he did was he took his autism, because he had very difficulty talking to people. But when he took his autism and just confined it inside of the Hare Krishna mantra and the Mridanga beat, he would play Mridanga and chant, but it was always inside of his own little universe of his own words. So Prabhupada loving to hear, where did you hear that? Somebody said that. There's people say things like Jayananda. Oh, Jayananda is so fantastic. I knew Jayananda before we were devotees. We took classes together in modern dance in San Francisco State University together. You're talking about people that I know, that I knew before they were famous also. So it's not the Prabhupada. In fact, Vishnu John was the main force behind Radha Damodar. Prabhupada came to a point of trying to stop Radha Damodar. He wanted to stop it, and Tamal Krishna argued with him on it. Tamal Krishna's project, Radha Damodar, was going to temples, stealing their best devotees, and then going out, causing chaos in all the temples they went to. And Vishnu John was the Kirtan leader. He led everything under Tamal's. You see, Tamal knew how to control Vishnu John because Mr. John was autistic. Tamal was very controlling. So one time Prabhupada said, I want you to stop this Radha Damodar. And Tamal Krishna says, I don't want to. He says that to Prabhupada. Prabhupada wanted to stop Radha Damodar with Mr. John, and Tamal said no. And Prabhupada said, why do you say you do not want to stop Radha Damodar when I request it? And Tamal said, I have more men than you do, Srila Prabhupada. Can you imagine? He really said that. I have more men than you do, Srila Prabhupada. Meaning, you can't make me stop. If you want to get into a battle with me, I'll win because I have more men. The men that obey you and the men that obey me, I have more men obeying me than will obey you. So does that sound like something that will please Srila Prabhupada? That's when Prabhupada exiled Tamal to China. And Tamal said, I don't want to go to China. I won't go. He said, what is my service? He wanted to ask Tamal, Prabhupada, then what is my service other than going to China? Prabhupada looked at Tamal and said, you have no service. Like that. And Tamal was all pissed off, of course. And he went into the next room where Hansaduta was. And he ranted and raved and explained what happened with Prabhupada being so unreasonable and all that. And then he said, and then Prabhupada said, when I said, what is my service? He said, Prabhupada said, you have no service. Hansaduta, from a Germanic, strict, high-end Germanic point of view, looked at Tamal and said, don't you realize that what Prabhupada said? If you have no service, then you're no longer a disciple. You had better go back and fix the situation with Srila Prabhupada, because no service means you are finished as a disciple, which could have happened anywhere, including from the beginning when they refused to follow the direction of management. He could have said, you won't accept direction of management, then you have no service. But he saw that these same, what did Prabhupada call them? They were a sinister movement within our society. He saw the sinister movement as people that were not going to go away, were trained up, were very aggressive, were in charge of practically everybody else. So he used them until he died, was killed by them.
We have 3 minutes to go.
Yeah. So Tamal ended up going to China in exile because Prabhupada told him to, because Hansaduta told him, when Prabhupada says no service, he meant no service. That you're finished, you're no longer a disciple. Okay. Any other note? Now, Rupa realized that if there's any other notices, any other postings, we have to take them, even if we go over. But if there are no more, then we can stop at 10.
Okay, so let's see here. Let me just do some last minute rundown here. If anyone has any questions online, please message us or join our group that is in the description of the videos. Let's see here. Okay, we answered 2 questions. I don't understand. You are saying that Krishna is only pleased with chanting like Prabhupada. There's another question. I don't understand. You're saying
okay. It's really easy to answer. It's not that Prabhupada is only pleased by people chanting like Prabhupada. He would be pleased by people chanting like Rupa Goswami or Jiva Goswami or Narottam Das Thakur. He would be totally pleased and is totally pleased, since these beings are all eternal. The real question is, compare Prabhupada to whom? To you? Are you on the same level as Prabhupada? So we say, why should Krishna be pleased when he's only pleased by pure devotees, Uttamadhikaris? Why should he be pleased by this neophyte person that's basically hardly able to come into ISKCON because of his past sinful deeds, he comes in on the platform level of Kanista Adhikari. Why would Krishna want to hear from him as much as from Prabhupada? So if you chant like Prabhupada, you say you accept the authority of the spiritual master. And besides which, what disciple would want to chant differently than the spiritual master? Consider this. The spiritual master's example is to be followed. So you want to do it differently. So why don't you get a different spiritual master? Do it differently for a different spiritual master, but don't do it differently for Prabhupada. He is your bona fide spiritual master. How can you consider straying from that to do something different? That's not the nature of the holy name. Any others?
That's about it, looks like. Rupert just left, so I'm not sure if she's going to join or not. But we can go a little over time.
She left a minute early.
Yeah, that's fine. So let's see here. Let me check my messages one more time. No, that's about it for tonight, Prabhu. And there's no more discussion. So
Okay.
online, or let me check my Facebook
So-
1 second. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Let's see. Okay, there's nothing on our
Okay, that's
Facebook.
good.
So yeah, so thank you very much, Narayan Prabhu, for this enlightening discussion.
Yeah, wasn't it
Prabhupada and
interesting
this-
though to deal with Prabhupada's 1953 or 54 or whatever it was, 53 writing
Yeah.
from the League of Devotees. We're the League for 10,000 years. He had the League of Devotees. So we're following in those footsteps, Prabhupada's early footsteps, not the later footsteps. We're following all of his footsteps, but we're taking it. So wasn't it interesting how dense that page was?
Yeah, it sure
Yeah.
is.
A neophyte could read it over and say, yeah, boy, that sounds right. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, sure. But would he have understood it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Would you have understood it? So it seems like, or to me, like we discussed earlier, that when Prabhupada came to the West, he changed the way he was speaking, like, in much simpler terms. I mean,
Well, he
whatever
was
he was,
dealing with people with very simple minds that were largely stoned on acid or pot. So the people, he was speaking densely at that League of Devotees because the other devotees in that league were all highly educated Vaishnavas, and as a result, they were reasoning tightly also.
right?
You know, they weren't dealing with human society at all. They were in renunciation and dealing with only the topic matter and arguing the topic matter back and forth. So Prabhupada presented it. He also presented it because he knew that fellow would be scared and run for the hills, which he probably did. But he gave him something. He gave him a piece of the Bhagavad-Gita as it is. I would love to know whatever occurred from that, if anything.
Mm.
But anyhow, I agree with you. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is great. We'll see everybody on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday. So
Again, yeah.
excellent. So thank you, Narayan Prabhu, Rupa Manjari, and our online viewers for joining and
Sorry.
posting
Did
big
Vinayak
questions.
stay with us or he didn't? Did Vinayak stay or he left? Hello? Ramachandra?
Yeah, I got cut out. So what did you say? Vinayak is here,
Oh,
but
did Vinayak leave or did he stay?
he's still here, but he's on mute. So who knows if he's listening or not? So it only
Well,
he
I'm sure he
can.
must be listening, but not speaking. So please, can you tell Vinayak that Narayana Das, his humble servant, offers obeisances at his feet.
Yeah. So you just said it. I don't have to say.
No, you said. I have no authority.
As it is. You heard it. Everyone heard it. Try.
Okay.
So yes, they'll do it. There's no.
Why don't you just say it just for fun?
Yes, Vinayak Sharma Prabhu, Narayan Prabhu offers you his humble respects and obeisances
At your feet.
at your feet. Jai. Haribol.
No, it's not,
Okay.
It's not doing that, isn't it? It's sort of like handing a person an invitation before they come into the room.
Yeah, all right. Jai.
Chai. So that was good. So, okay. And I'm amazed that Rupa Manjari dared to bring that document up. It was really channeled.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
What's the explanation? Okay.
Yeah, the explanation was fine. I was zooming in and out, so I'll have to re-listen to the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Where will you be on Wednesday?
I'll be in the same place I am now. So
will we have any difficulty formatting Wednesday?
no, shouldn't be any difficulties. I'll be more situated properly. So.
Yeah, and you have your computer.
Yep.
Okay, Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glory